I'm here with Mike Waller. He's the winemaker at Calera, and we are up on Mount Harlan, the only winery in the Mount Harlan AVA. We're at about 2,300 feet of elevation, and we're in the Villiers parcel, which has an interesting history to it. Tell us a little bit about how this parcel came about.
Okay, well, this parcel here was originally planted in 1997. The thought of this parcel, it's between two of our other vineyards that had been established. One in 1975, the Jensen Vineyard, just to the east of us on this side, and to the south of us, the Mills Vineyard. Josh's original plan for this vineyard was to have this be an extension of Jensen on this side and an extension of Mills on this side. Well, you know, little did we know that this vineyard reacted completely different to its climate, its soil, its where it was grown. And 10 years down the road, we finally were able to isolate this vineyard and pick it in the right way that it became its own vineyard, and that's when we named it de Villiers, after Mark de Villiers, who wrote the book The Heartbreak Grape. And that's the story of Josh Jensen and his start. Josh wanted to give a tribute to Mark, and so that's how he named this vineyard. First bottling of it was 2007, so 10 years old, and now it's been a single vineyard ever since.
And that was your first vintage here, was 2007?
That was my first vintage.
Okay. And the problem, or not the problem, but the difficulty with it was super tannic in the beginning.
It was extremely tannic, and that was part of the problem. Josh got to a point with this vineyard that, you know, after 9 years of it being around, it was not making the cut. It would go into either the Central Coast, or at that time, I think 2 years in a row, we did a Mount Harlan cuvee. So it'd kind of be a lower tiered wine in between our Mount Harlan wines and our Central Coast. And he was very frustrated with this vineyard, and at that point was about to give up on this vineyard. And when I got here, we decided to look at the way we were picking this vineyard and how it was separated, and actually go in and pick this vineyard over maybe 6 different picks, really to focus on ripeness and not, you know, have such heavy tannins. We also decided to destem that year, which was something that Calera had never done with any of the Mount Harlan wines. And the reason for that was because it was so tannic. Destemming it would actually soften it up, and we really liked what we got. So we continued to do that for about 4 or 5 years, where we destemmed the whole thing. Now we are probably about 75% whole cluster on this vineyard. I'm thinking this vintage, 2022, will be the first vintage we actually go to 100% whole cluster. Now the vine's established, right? So being established, you know, the roots are down deeper, the tannins have softened up. So we're looking at 20, 25 years old.
That's one of the reasons you like old vines and why you try to farm for old vines and replants here. You don't rip out an entire parcel and redo it all at once. You're trying to really manage that to keep that old vine age up.
Absolutely, and that's what we say. I think that 25-year mark is when they first started getting to that point. You know, we cherish them. You know, our original plantings from 1975 still exist today. Now there are sections of those vineyards that are struggling or not producing at all, that we're thinking of doing small replants over the years, but we have to keep that old vine mentality to these vines, and then that's why we're getting the intensity we're getting from these different vineyards.
And as we've been walking through here today, you're grabbing a berry every now and then and tasting. Show us what you do when you taste a berry and what it is that you're looking for.
Honestly, look, you know, when I'm walking through here, you know, you don't want to just grab off the front of a cluster. I'm grabbing in the back of the cluster, I'm grabbing in the front of the cluster, I'm going on both sides of the vineyards. But what I'm doing here is I think winemaking is all about flavor of the grape, right? I think we have very intense flavors here all the time. But what I'm looking for with our vineyards, especially this vineyard, and you get to know different vineyards, but with our vineyard, I've been working here for 15 years. I'm looking for these tannins that, you know, on the tip of my tongue or on the sides of my mouth here that are extreme tannins to soften up. I'm looking for the berry to soften up a bit. I'm looking for the seeds to be browning a little bit. And I'm looking for acids to drop out. Right now, these vineyards, you can see that they're progressing and there's good sugar in them, but they're still really high acids. These guys, they're probably 10 to 12 grams per liter TA total right now. So I want to see that drop out a bit, and then you start getting more intense flavors. You know, you start getting your more intense fruit characters from this, and that tannin to soften up a bit. And this is how we make great wines here, right?
Right, and you're not pressured by deteriorating weather up here. It's basically just kind of a long, slow harvest season, and it's a waiting game for you.
It's definitely a waiting game for us. I mean, and there's certain years, and as you look at the vines this year, this is a small, very small canopy. We do actually have decent fruit on this. I mean, our average fruit here, our average yields are just over a ton to the acre. But this year we got a little bit of frost, so you can see the canopies have been, you know, struggling a bit. But we have pretty open fruiting zone here to get hit by the sun. You know, anything besides a big heat spike that came up, I am not worried. And I've kind of looked at the forecast coming up over the next couple of weeks, when we should be starting probably in about a week and a half, 2 weeks. It's going to be pretty moderate, you know, and the nights cool off here tremendously. So I think that really will depict, you know, our growing season. It'll help give us a day that we're going to start picking, right? And I could see that these are progressing in the right way.
Okay. Mike Waller, winemaker at Calera in the Villiers parcel. Thanks for showing us around.
My pleasure.